Hello and welcome to the Women Veterans Alliance Wednesday webinar. And I am Melissa Washington, the CEO and founder of Women Veterans Alliance, and welcoming you all to a fantastic webinar that we have today that will be very interactive, which is always a good thing. So I wanted to introduce you all to our speaker today, Brittany Kennard, who is a proud wife and mama to two boys, Blayne and Maks. She's a passionate philanthropist and advocate for trauma survivors and fellow military caregivers, a special needs mama, and sometimes loves dogs more than humans. She traded her corporate career to become a caregiver for her family to ensure their mental and physical health. On March 11th, 2005, her husband, United States Army Specialist Douglas Kennard, was critically injured on his tour of duty in Iraq by an IED while in convoy security, resulting in a severe traumatic brain injury that left him in a coma for 3 days. On September 13th, 2010, he retired from the United States Army, and she became the full-time caregiver and advocate. In 2010, her first son was born, Blayne, and later diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. Then her second son, Max, was born in 2012, and in 2013, Gunner, their beloved service dog, joined the family. Service dog Gunner improved their lives, supporting her husband with mobility and his PTS and TBI diagnosis. However, it was a long, arduous road to get their service dog approved by the VA. In June of 2014, she founded the SD Gunner Foundation, a nonprofit organization with the mission to assist veterans, children with disabilities, and first responders while inspiring disability awareness through public education and advocacy. She founded Brittany Kennard LLC in 2022, where she can consult with and spread to companies and organizations nationwide to educate and inspire, showing how critical courage it is to live a life of impact and purpose while raising awareness about military caregivers, as well as how to turn trauma into triumph. In addition to speaking engagements, she offers programs to companies and organizations that feature business compliance, education, training, and resources on service dogs, laws, ADA service dog regulations, and HUD, FH service dog and emotional support animal laws. Without further ado, Brittany, I'm gonna let you take it away. Thank you so much for being here.
No, thank you, Melissa. It's a pleasure to be here. We have I guess, a smaller group today. So if I could ask everyone who's here, kind of what brings you here and what interested you about this webinar. I believe we have, is it Ingrid on here? Ingrid, would you mind giving me some feedback?
Let's see. Ingrid, if you could unmute. Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, alrighty. Well, I'm Ingrid from the Virginia National Guard Soldier and Family Readiness Program. I am a veteran, and I currently have two of my Army sisters are terminally ill, and I was just kind of looking for ways to support their caregivers.
I got you. Okay. Well, thanks for coming on today. And if anyone else joins in, Melissa, if you'll just let me know. But so what I'll do is I usually start and just kind of tell you a little bit about myself. I know that Melissa read my bio, but to give you a little bit more in-depth, kind of understanding where I'm coming from. I met my husband early on in life, and I became a full-time caregiver at 29 years old. And my husband was hit directly by an IED while serving in Iraq. He was over there in 04 and 05 and ended up in a coma for 3 days, and then was sent home later that year with a severe traumatic brain injury. Since coming home, my husband's been diagnosed with started out 56. I think we're now up to 66 different injuries. His most recent one is cortical blindness. So he is completely losing his vision. And we have been, as a family, kind of through the ringer when it comes to being a caregiver. I had to quit my job. I was a VP at a bank, and I had to quit my full-time job to care for my husband. When I quit my job, I had to wait, basically, because we were waiting on his VA claim to come in. So we were literally living off of Social Security, which at that time was, a whopping $800 a month. So it wasn't a whole lot to begin with. And it made our life early on very, very, very difficult. And as a caregiver, it's a very lonely and isolating feeling to know that we don't have, or to feel like we don't have others there to support us. Because I believe at 29 years old, I was kind of put into a very rare box in becoming a caregiver between the ages of 18 and 49. Most of the time when you use the term caregiver, most of us think our grandparents or our parents going to visit our grandparents at a nursing home. No one imagines someone in their 20s or 30s having to care for someone, full time. And after doing a little bit of research, according to caregiver.org, there's currently 43.5 million unpaid caregivers, just like me, and just like those of you who may be listening, who are caring for your spouse, your sibling, your loved one, if they served in the armed forces. It's people like us who just suddenly found themselves one day without any warning under a new title. And that can be a very scary thing. When you become a caregiver, you imagine that all of these resources are available because you see the commercials out there for dementia and Alzheimer's and all these things. But what they don't tell you is that they're not available to you if you're under the age of 65. A lot of times. They also don't tell you that some of the state funded programs are not available if you're not drawing, Social Security or you're over the age of 65. So what do you do in a particular time such as that as a caregiver, and you've got someone who is in desperate need of care and you're trying to show support? Some caregivers that are in the program, and caregivers like me, are not always eligible for programs like the Department of Aging, the VA caregiver program, Social Security under certain circumstances, and other state-funded programs that, like I said, benefit the elderly who oftentimes suffer from dementia and Alzheimer's. A great example I like to give to people is there's a current I live in Savannah, Georgia. There's a current program in the state of Georgia right now that will pay family members to be your caregiver, and they will pay the going market rate, just so they don't have to hire an aide to come in. And so I was super excited, gathered all my information, took it up there, only to find out that we didn't qualify because my husband wasn't over the age of 65. So it was very crushing. Have I applied for the VA caregiver program? Absolutely. Was I denied? Multiple times. Does my husband require full-time care? Absolutely. Do I have a lot of help? I do now. And that's really why I like to get on to the webinars and talk to individuals and kind of share what we've been through, in hopes that maybe something I've done along the way can help you, or that can help you advise others who you may come across or may be in this particular situation. Currently, there are 1.1 million military caregivers in the US today. And 33% of those caregivers are spouses raising small children. A lot of them, just like me or you. And unfortunately, a third of those individuals, a third of those marriages will dissolve because of the burdens of caregiving. Now, if you take out certain sectors of the caregiving market, 62% of caregivers stated that caregiving caused them severe financial strain. Now, I know firsthand because I had to quit my job, but then you also factor in military families that are just receiving VA pay or Social Security pay, and they're getting paid one time a month. And they've got to make that check stretch the entire month. And it's usually the last week or the last week and a half where you really start to see families struggling because something has gone wrong that month and they've had to spend a little more money than they anticipated. And so a lot of our families, a lot of our veterans and their caregivers are reporting severe financial strain. Now, what can we do in various positions to help this situation out? Are there a lot of organizations out there that help caregivers? Absolutely. Absolutely, there is. And a lot of them have very big hearts and they do great things. But in certain situations, though, we don't have a lot of caregiver organizations out there that provide actual financial assistance or actual respite care. Now, yes, the monthly care packages and the crossword puzzles and all that stuff, it's really nice to get sometimes, but it doesn't always help the situation. So we have to look at what is helpful, what is beneficial. Caregivers need resources for respite care. If you're like my family, we live, like I said, in Savannah, Georgia. My family is from Mississippi and my husband's family is from South Carolina. I don't have anybody close by. I mean, so that makes it really hard when things go sideways. And I've got 2 children, I've got my husband, I've got a service dog, and then somewhere at the very end of that list, I've got me. And you have to have a network. So one of the programs that I highly encourage people, if your veteran is severely or catastrophically injured, is to reach out to Wounded Warrior Project Independent Living Program. This is a very specific program. They actually help provide respite. They have been a lifesaver for my family. They provide me with an aide that comes for 55 hours a month. And she's been coming to us for years now. I cannot imagine my life without this woman. She has become a staple in our family. She's a licensed nurse and social worker. She knows my husband inside and out, and she can deal with my husband inside and out. For those of you who have difficult veterans, and she knows how he likes things. So when she comes, that gives me a chance as a caregiver to schedule what we like to call a me day or a respite day. So I can schedule, if we have the funds available to go get a massage, or I can schedule really and truly to go sit in my bed and read a book. It does not matter what your form of respite is, but an organization like that specifically helps out tremendously. Another group that helps out when it comes to medical care. So let's say you've got to take your spouse or your loved one or your veteran to receive medical care, and you're going to be overnight. There's a group called Wounded Warrior Support Foundation that will help provide a caregiver to care for your children while you need to be gone. Or if you yourself are having surgery, they will provide respite for someone to stay at the house with your veteran if that person needs that. And they work it all out and they pay them directly. So that's also a huge resource. I have also had a lot of luck with America's Fund and Semper Fi Fund. It's basically the same organization, started as Semper Fi Fund, and then they branched out to America's Fund, which covers everything outside of the Marines, because Semper Fi is the Marines. They can also help out when it comes to respite care and some financial care. But one of the programs that I really like to tell people about when it comes to resources for your veterans, if you have someone that has been in combat, now there is a couple of catches to this program, but that has seen combat, then they qualify for something called CRSC, which is combat related special compensation. So a lot of people think that this program is just pay only, and it's not. It includes medical care. So what makes this different is that this is coming from the DoD side and not the VA side. So if you are going to a VA and you're not getting the care that you think that you should be getting, or the accuracy of care that you think your veteran should be getting, you can apply to the CRSC program and you can go see whatever doctor you want to go see. And they will help facilitate that, and they will also help with some of the expenses. So, and I'll give everyone a great example. My husband has cortical blindness. We are assigned to the Ralph Johnson Charleston VA. They don't have anybody there that can help my husband with cortical blindness. The last time we went there, they tried to give him bifocals. So I had to find a neuro-ophthalmologist that knew what cortical blindness was and knew how to treat that. We went through the CRSC program, and they actually arranged it for us to go see a specialist all the way out in San Diego, California. And we see him once a year. My husband's brain doctor is in Miami at the Miami Brain Institute. And so we have had the privilege of seeing several high-end specialists that would not be covered by the VA. And, you know, if you have TRICARE, it's a hit or miss on whether or not, you know, they're going to cover it that day or not, depending upon the new regulations and so forth. So if you have someone that is in need of specialized care and you're having difficulty, and let's say the VA is your only form of insurance, if you have seen combat, then I would highly suggest that you reach out to the CRSC program and see if you can receive medical care or go see a specialist under that particular program, because then that will get you outside of the VA. And if you're having difficulty with the VA as far as like working with you on diagnosis and so forth, any of the CRSC and DoD doctors, they're not influenced by the VA. So they're not going to be pushed to change their minds or their opinions, or, you know, not help out with ratings or etc., or whatever your experience might be with the VA. But I think as caregivers, we need within our communities support networks. Now, how do we do that exactly? I encourage a lot of people to meet with their local politicians, their local community leaders, and see if you can get a group of caregivers. And again, it doesn't have to be military. Caregivers are caregivers. We've all been there, whether it's an autism mama, whether it's a Down syndrome mama, whether it is a TBI from the military, whether it's a car crash mama, you know, whatever you want to be. You go find those people and you kind of form an educational and support group, because these are also people, like-minded people, that are going to understand where you're coming from, and they're going to understand how you feel. I know when I first became a caregiver, I felt very, I don't even know how to explain it. I felt very alone. I felt very isolated. I felt like I had no friends, no family. And I didn't know how to process that, because I was a very social person. And it was extremely difficult. I battled depression, I battled anxiety, and then I was overwhelmed at the same time, because I do not work in the medical field, and having to deal with all of my husband's stuff at 29 years old was a nightmare. And so I got with local people, and I was privileged enough, and I hope that some of you may be too, to partner up with other caregivers and form a support group but also maybe form a nonprofit, or maybe get some guidance to help, serve others in your community. Every community is different. So if we as caregivers can come together and, I can't remember the name of the cartoon, but the cartoon says, see a need, fulfill a need, and that's sort of my mentality when I work with individuals is to say, okay, if you see something that's missing, then say something, and then maybe we can get a group of people together to help you form a support group, or help you form a nonprofit, or help you form a way to help others that are in the same situation that you are. Now, Ingrid, you said you had two individuals who were very ill. If you don't mind me asking, what type of illness are we looking at or dealing with, or what kind of support do they need?
Let's see, one that I just went to see last weekend in South Carolina. She has Lou Gehrig's disease, so ALS. And her wife and her daughter are her caregivers. And I know they feel pretty isolated. A lot of people showed up for her birthday party, but on a day-to-day basis, they just aren't around very much. I feel like they don't know what to say. I mean,
Sure.
if the news is permanently bad, ALS is not going to get better. They don't know what to say to keep things upbeat and to keep things fun.
I gotcha.
The other one, she is in Omaha, and she collects cancer like other people collect shoes. She's got about 5 or 6 different kinds of cancer, and those will also not get better. And her daughters are her caregivers.
Okay. Now, the lady in South Carolina, where is she? What town, if you don't mind me asking?
Chapin or Chapin, I'm not sure how it's pronounced.
Chapin. Okay, so she's in Columbia. Okay. Interesting. Okay. My husband and I used to live in Chapin. That's he's from Columbia, South Carolina. Okay. So, have these women seen, or have these veterans seen combat? Would they qualify for the CRSC program?
No, they did not see combat.
Okay, all right. Well, another source, obviously, that we could look at would be, now I can't speak for the Omaha location. I can speak because I know Dorn VA inside and out. And I don't know where she goes, but I would highly encourage, if she does go to Dorn VA, to possibly seek out the Augusta VA. They tend to be a lot better when it comes to care and resources than Dorn. Now, again, I haven't used Dorn in 10 years. But I would also ask if the daughters are very involved, and and the mom and the daughter are very involved in the treatments. If they get to a point to where they feel like the VA cannot provide adequate service to their treatments, you can obviously request community care. And then, like I said, you can also reach out to individuals. Like, I would highly suggest the Wounded Warrior Project Independent Living Program, especially for the ALS individual, and depending upon how far progressive the cancer individual is, because they will also provide hospice should that be needed. And it's a fully funded program, and it doesn't cost you anything to do. And it will give them some kind of relief. What I would also probably recommend is reaching out in some of these caregiver groups and seeing if there are, now I get it, like I get these caregiver groups can be cutthroat. But reaching out on social media, to Facebook and so forth, and asking if there are other individuals who have suffered from similar issues, if they would like to become Facebook friends, if they could chat. I have several mental health resources that caregivers can reach out to, that are not tied to the VA, that are separate entities, where they can, feel comfortable to be able to express themselves, wholeheartedly, and it not be used against them, if they are afraid of that. And then I also have some resources that I can shoot you, personally, for, estate planning and all of the other items that might be on the to-do list that may not be there yet, or it might be already done. But I would definitely, in those two particular situations, I would definitely reach out to the independent living program, and see if that is something that they would qualify for, and something that they could, could use, because like I said, the lady that they send me, she's a nurse and a social worker. She knows everything. She's also a veteran herself. She knows everything inside and out. And then, also look into the Simplify Fund and the Americas Fund and see if there's something that they would be able to assist with from there. And then any specific needs, I would definitely be reaching out to communities. Chapin is a great little community. It's got a lot of resources. It's got a lot of people there, and they like to help. So a lot of times us as caregivers, we are a little bashful when it comes to asking for help. We don't really want a lot of people in our business, and we don't really want a lot of people knowing what's going on. Or we don't want a lot of people thinking that we can't handle, what's going on. And the reality it is, at least for me, in my house, I'm drowning most of the time. I put on a really good face and I make it sound really amazing, but I'm drowning most of the time. And I think sometimes it's important for us as caregivers to say that, so that people don't see, our Facebook and our social media and our Instagrams and think that our life is perfect. I mean, and that's what's really hard sometimes is we see social media, we see all these things, and that's one life. And then the real life is sitting over here, and we don't like to talk about, that part of the life. But finding a group of caregivers, in a networking group or something that has also dealt with ALS, and going from there, or dealing with the cancer, that the other individual has, might be extremely beneficial, for them, just for mental health reasons as well.
Thank you. I appreciate all of that information. It's wonderful.
So I usually talk a whole lot, but since it's just it's just you hanging out today, so let me know what all. I mean, do you have any like in-depth questions? Do you want to know anything about, really anything? Like what can I help you answer?
Well, I mean, beyond my personal connections, I am actively working with National Guard families, current families, and people who've retired or who are veterans of the National Guard. And you never know what's going to come up with my families. So I was just looking for general information, even maybe as far as what are well-intended things that people might say that actually are not helpful, so I can avoid saying those things.
Well, I think every situation's different. The number one statement I get from most people is, "I know how you feel." Do you? I mean, and unless you really do it, but I think too, like I said earlier, I live in Savannah. I'm from the South. We like to talk. We like to get in everybody's business. So that's just kind of our way of doing things. But I know for my husband, a very touchy subject is when people say, "Oh, I know how you feel," and it's like, I don't think you do, I think a lot of times, sometimes just sitting there and listening is what's best. And you might hear some crazy stuff, like you might just hear so off the wall, but sometimes listening is amazing. And sometimes just being honest. A lot of times I will look at people and I go, I have absolutely no clue what you're going through, but I am 100% here if you need me. And sometimes just being the reality of that and just being honest, and letting them know, look, I can't relate to you. I can't imagine, can't even dream it, can't even make it up in my head, but I'm here if you need me. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, if you just call my phone and scream and hang up, that's fine. I'll know who it is. I won't have to call you back. If you want to call and cuss me out in my email, totally fine. I won't say anything. I get it. You're blowing off steam. But I think also sometimes with people, when dealing with someone who might be potentially going into hospice, or there's no bright light on the other side, a lot of it is just being there. A lot of it is trying to understand how to get the resources there for them. If you're dealing with something not as serious as that, let's say you've got, individuals getting out or retired members, and you're just trying to figure out a way, a lot of times I will always lead with, I'm here to help. I'm here to provide resources. Some of them you may not like, some of them you may not even use. And if you don't like them, just go ahead and tell me. But I don't know how to help unless you kind of guide me. And sometimes that helps too, because then you'll get the, oh, well, I don't want to do this. I don't like this. Or even push it a little bit further. If you're dealing with someone who is in a domestic violence situation, and let's say, unfortunately, the veteran may be the abuser, and the veteran may have severe PTSD, and you're speaking with the spouse or the person that is being abused, then a lot of it is walking very carefully, because you don't want to say anything that's going to sound degrading or insulting. I mean, and a lot of sometimes we may not understand that person may be going back to that person for the 10th time, and you may not understand it at all, and a lot of that is just, when you're ready, I'm here. I understand but when you're ready, I'm here. And that way they know that regardless of how many bad decisions they make, they can still call you, because they may go back 9 times, but that 10th time, it may be the one. But if you don't give them an outlet or feel comfortable to come back to, that 9th time, that 10th time may kill them. And that's a difficult scenario to also have to touch on. And I apologize for being so blunt. But it happens.
That's fine. I sit on some of the local domestic violence boards just to be prepared for those situations. So I completely understand, and I understand that veterans are a prime target for perpetrators of domestic violence, because veterans are harder to control. So they're a bigger, better prize, probably subconsciously, but they're a better prize for somebody who perpetuates that kind of behavior.
Yeah. And it's, a lot of times in my line of work, I've seen grown men, 6'2", 240-pound men be abused by their spouse, their caretaker. They, belittle them, they degrade them. And as a man, they're almost a little bit more difficult, than say a female in a domestic violence situation, because they're raised to not say anything, and they feel embarrassed to say something, because who's going to believe this big man is being abused and belittled by a woman? And I know that's stereotypical, and that's the way society, has laid that out. And it's not fair. It's not fair to anybody in a domestic violence situation. But unfortunately, the men are less likely to report than anything else, because they feel
when they report, they're less likely to be believed.
Right. Very much so.
That's a joke.
It's a very touchy subject, but a lot of times, just for me, I don't know how, but I tend to be one of the guys in the conversation. I mean, I'm just like, it is what it is. Like, you want to talk to me? Great. If not, hey, I'm here. You want to chill, you want to do whatever. And I try to create an environment for him or for them where they feel comfortable. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but you can see it a mile away and you know what's going on. I mean, and so the best thing I can say is to always be there. I had someone one time tell me, I swear, I don't know why you don't give up on me, and I told that person, I said, well, regardless of what you believe, because everybody has their own belief source, right? I don't care if it's Buddha. I don't care if it's sunshine. I don't care if it's the Lord Jesus Christ. Whatever you believe in, you believe in. But what I believe in is that the one dude that loves me, he hasn't given up on me. So therefore, he hasn't given me a reason to give up on you. And he was like, yeah, but everybody else has. And I was like, but I haven't. I was like, I'm pretty persistent and I can be pretty annoying. And I plan on not going anywhere. So I'll be here when you're ready. And it still took him about another 12 weeks before he finally came back. And he was like, okay, I'm ready. And I was like, okay, now we're going to play ball, by my rules. And he was like, okay, I got it. I mean, and so sometimes it's just the sheer fact of not giving up. And women who have been battered and beaten, and especially military sexual assault, trauma victims, it's being there. It's just being there. I don't have to say anything at all. Just listen, and let them get it out of their system. Let them tell you, and no judgment. I mean, whatever happened, no judgment here, and providing them with some sort of stability, background, and support sometimes is the beginning of what they need. And it could be very impactful for them. Because you never know, the day they're coming in to see you might almost could have been their last day, but since you stood by them, they get another day. So, did I answer your question, or did I talk all the way around?
No, that was helpful. It was very helpful. Thank you very much.
After the webinar is over with, Women's Veterans Alliance has my contact information. It's also, I think, in the bio. If you need any resources, you can always reach out to me via email or my website. I have tons and tons and tons of resources that fit specific branches, male, female, caregivers, and all that stuff. This is way too many to put on a slide necessarily. But I encourage anyone who is listening to this webinar or who sees it later, you can always reach out to me by shooting me an email at brittanykinerd@gmail.com or reaching out to our nonprofit at sdgunner.org. That's servicedoggunner.org. But yeah, I mean, I am willing to share any resources I have. I'm willing to help anyone out there. Because saving a life means more to me than hearing about another one on the news. So any way I can help is that's my jam. So
Brittany, I have a couple questions.
Yep.
So with the medical care that you've mentioned was received, like in California and Florida for the CRSC, do they reimburse you for travel?
So that's the great thing about it. So if you do the CRSC program, one of the other organizations I mentioned early on, the Simplify Fund and America's Fund, they will actually partner with the CRSC program and they will help cover your airfare and hotel. And then while you're there, the CRSC covers all the medical stuff. Yes.
Awesome. And then on the Wounded Warrior Project, the independent living program, of course, one would have to qualify for that. How was that process getting approved for that? And what does that look like for someone that's going to go, maybe they're already, say they're already a member of Wounded Warrior Project. What did that process look like for you to apply? What do you have to provide? How does that process work?
So Wounded Warrior Project already had most of our stuff on file because we were already members. I called them up. I was very distraught when I got the diagnosis of cortical blindness, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, he can't see to drive. Like I've got to go to blind school and do all that stuff with him." I was like, "This is absolutely going to be a nightmare." I'm trying to figure out my house is not handicap accessible for vision issues. I had a full blown meltdown, if I'm being totally honest. I totally fell apart. And I called Wounded Warrior Project and they put me in touch with the independent living program. I did a 20-minute interview over the phone. They asked me all the stuff that he was going to need help with. They asked me for his VA rating and his disability, sheet or whatever, sent that in. And within the next week, I had an approval. We started out with, I've had this lady for almost, I don't know, 5 years now. We started out with like 20 hours a month. It wasn't a lot. And then as my husband progressed with his injuries, they added hours. So like I said earlier, we are up to 55 hours a month. And she comes on Wednesdays and Fridays. And I don't know how it is for anyone else. I'm only speaking from my perspective. But when I say that her name is Mackenzie, so when I say that Mackenzie literally does everything for him, she picks him up. She has taken him to his medical appointments, therapy, chiropractor. If he wants to go fishing, she takes him fishing. If he wants to go to a cooking class as part of his therapy, she takes him to the cooking class. She does anything therapeutic. Her job is to get him out of the house and to get away from me. I know that sounds awful, but it's to provide me with some sanity. So they jump in the vehicle. And she drives, of course, because he's visually impaired, but literally anything he wants to do, she does it. And when I say she's been a super sport, because she's done some things I don't think I would do, but she's taken him to handicap shooting places. She's taken him, like I said, deep sea fishing. She has gone and cleaned deer with my husband. That was interesting. And then, like I said, also she's taken him to therapy, and I trust her enough because she's been with me long enough, right? That I can send her to a doctor's office and she knows exactly the questions I'm going to ask. And when she gets back to the house, I can say, "How was this appointment and what was going on?" And she's like, "Here, I got this whole sheet for you." And she took notes. She took all the stuff down. So I don't have to go back and try to track it down. And then if we go to the VA, we usually go together. So I have backup because I'm not in the medical field. So she can help me kind of see through some things if the VA is being difficult or if they're, not doing what I need them to do and I'm not getting anywhere. So she helps kind of navigate that system as well.
Thank you for that. Also too, looks like Tara has joined us, and I don't know, Tara, I know you just joined us. We've been just having a conversation, and Brittany's been sharing some fantastic resources and sharing her experience. But if you wanted to, if you're comfortable with, just so that way Brittany might be able to help you with maybe some questions or share why you joined this webinar today.
She may have to unmute.
Yep. If you're able to.
Sarah?
Yeah. Yeah. We'll give her a second.
Okay.
And Brittany, so when I think of caregivers, especially when it comes to military families, a lot of times, Elizabeth Dole Foundation, have you utilized any resources with that foundation?
Actually, no. I've reached out to them numerous times and I've never received any assistance from them whatsoever.
Okay. All right.
Usually when you reach out, you just kind of get a list of document or like a print of, hey, try these people. But no, I've unfortunately never had any assistance from them.
Okay. Or if you wanted to even just put in the chat something as well.
Hey, I'm so sorry. I
There
was
you are.
dealing with my husband for like 5 seconds. I'm like, oh, of course, as soon as I could get on. So I'm Tara. I live in Savannah, and I just, am always looking for more more resources.
Okay. Hey, Tara, I'm in Savannah as well.
Yes.
Um, tell me, is your husband a veteran?
Oh, he is. He is a combat vet. He's 100% total and permanent. He has PTSD, TBI, and like 40 other service connected things. So he has a laundry list.
I got you. Okay. And then if you don't mind me asking, does he have TRICARE or do you see the VA only for care?
He uses only the VA. Me and my daughters use the TRICARE.
Okay. Does he like the VA?
Wow. We actually moved here from Erie, Pennsylvania, which crazy enough, Erie has a wonderful VA. Like we never wanted for anything. So coming here, I actually didn't realize that Savannah now did not have a VA hospital, that it was just an outpatient clinic. So that was a little bit of a shocker. um, we were at Fort Stewart for 8 years. So I really thought coming back after all these years, maybe there were more services. Yeah. So his primary care is wonderful. Like I could not ask for a better primary care. Obviously community care, we have a lot of issues. The caregiver program, obviously there is a ton of issues.
Yeah. Are you in the caregiver program?
I am. We are actually a legacy. We got here in May 2 years ago, when they started the whole, they were going to start having all the opening up the caregiver program. We were actually one of the very first ones to be let go of the legacy. They told me because we were only in the system for a few months, that's all the information they could use. And I was like, this is crap. I like, sorry. I mean, this is unacceptable. What about the other 6 years that we were at the Erie VA and that really shows, well, we can't use any of that information, which I found out later was not true because I still have a lot of connections within our old, I actually do my caregiver support groups through my old Erie VA things because here there's like nothing.
I gotcha. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Savannah's interesting. We don't, obviously you have to go to the Charleston VA. Reason why I was asking is there is an amazing program here. It is an out-of-pocket cost, but it's a program called MDVIP. And it's where you pay a yearly fee and you have private access to providers. I have gone that route with my husband because I was not getting anywhere with Savannah. Well, Savannah was so bad, I had to transfer to the Hinesville CBOC. I have a doctor over there that is absolutely amazing. But I wasn't getting anywhere with the Savannah and the community care programs. What I was telling the ladies earlier is if your husband saw combat and was a part of combat, then does he qualify for a program through the military called CRSC, which stands for Combat Related
We have
Special?
that. Mhm.
Okay. So then he qualifies. Are you aware that CRSC provides a medical program too?
No.
Okay. So CRSC will actually set up and take care of all the arrangements for you to see any specialist anywhere in the United States that you want to see. And they will set all of that up for you. You just have to call the CRSC number or the hot, I don't want to say hotline, but the information and ask for the medical side, and they will actually set all that up. And then they actually partner with an organization called America's Fund or Simplify Fund. And Simplify Fund will help cover the travel and the hotel cost for you to go see. Then these are specialists that are approved by the DoD. So that also helps when you're trying to do like a VA claim, because DOD doctors outweigh VA doctors when it comes to decisions. Also, the CRSC doctors can't be pressured to change their opinions or outlook on things, like they do sometimes on a VA rating. But yes, Savannah struggles a whole lot with what's going on as far as services available. And of course, as you know, if you want anything to do with imaging or anything more complex than your GP, you got to go to Charleston. And that makes it very frustrating as well. Also in the Savannah area, or the Charleston VA. So the Charleston VA covers 2 states. It covers Georgia and South Carolina. But the Charleston VA also has a 96% drop ratio in the caregiver program.
Yeah.
So it has not ever been a good program in this area. And I tell everybody that's in the caregiver program, if you're in it, yay, just don't bank on it right now, because they do have a 96% drop ratio. Couple of years ago, when they were audited by the IG, they found that since Charleston covered 2 states, they only had 11 caregivers actually registered in the whole program covering 2 states.
And see, they told me in November they had 22. I was their 23rd person. I said, I find that very hard to believe that out of 9/11 veterans, that there are only now 23 in your, I was baffled. I really thought they told me the wrong number.
No, it's probably right. Because it's probably right, because they have such a high drop ratio.
Wow.
So just I'm glad you're in there. B, just be careful.
Trust me, it's something like I've told them, we've never banked on it. We do not build anything around it for us, because as I know, and most people who've been doing this in long enough, it's a program is here today and it's gone tomorrow.
Right. I was also telling them about a program through Wounded Warrior Project called the Independent Living Program. If your husband needs assistance with his TBI, and his injuries are severe enough, Wounded Warrior Project will put him into the Independent Living Program, and they will actually provide you with an aid or some kind of support services to help you care for him. So I don't know if you've looked into that at all either, or if you knew about it.
I knew about it. We're not quite there. He's not wanting anybody obviously to come in at this point.
I
So
gotcha. So as a caregiver, what are you doing for you?
well, yeah, wow. We also have adult children that live with us. So we have a 22 and 20-year-old. So, I try to get out as much as I can. It's connecting with my friends back in Pennsylvania that we had, keeping up with some of the military wives that, over the years, we're all in the same boat now. And like I said, it's, as you know, the struggle is real, but.
I understand. Well, there's a local caregiver group that meets in the Richmond Hill area that is used to be supervised by Operation Homefront, I think, or Hearts of Valley. If they're still meeting, I don't know. I'm being dead honest. I don't know, but they used to meet in the area. And so that may be an option as well. I believe also, if you're a member of OHOP, there is a group that meets that is local to the area as well. And then I'm trying to think there. I told the other individuals on the call or earlier, after the phone call or after the webinar is over with, if you need additional resources for mental health, if you need, since you're local to me, if you need local resources, I have a ton of those, of things that can help, or just families that you can meet up with. We've got over 100 and something families in our nonprofit alone that we serve, that's local to the area, that is veterans and first responders, all dealing with mobility and PTSD, struggles, that we can definitely hook you up with. and kind of give you a support network. But as far as like resources specifically, what are you looking for?
I don't, I really, I always am just curious as to what's out there for when I do need, if that makes sense. I like I said, because we're newer here and it just kind of seems like before I could call my local caregiver and they're like, yeah, I do this, 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 and this, like I said, us being newer here, I don't quite know everything that's out there, like a lot of things that are out there, but it's not that I need anything right now. It's just, I'm always waiting, for the next thing, obviously.
I gotcha. Yeah, I don't know if you're going to find that necessarily here. We tends to operate a little bit differently than
Right.
A lot of the people I've heard coming from up north. We kind of wing it down here, and we don't wing it well, so it is what it is. But no, there's probably 5 or 6 different organizations in the area that provide resources. And like I said, I can definitely get you hooked up with them, but without knowing specifically like kind of what you're looking for, whether it's retreats or getaways or respite or, financial assistance or homes or that type of stuff. I don't know where to direct you, but just keep my information. So when you do decide that you need something and you need something specific, you can always email me. And I will be glad to shoot you out, all the resources I've got in that category.
And I guess actually the one thing where I always tell the VA, I feel like I know that they're lacking, but the place that they lack to me the most is anything about TBI. I said, my husband is 50 years old and has the memory of a goldfish. I mean, he goes out to take the trash and he comes back in and he's like, oh, well, and I'm like, oh, okay. Thanks. Good thing you made it back. But that's really like where I struggle on how to deal, I guess, with the everyday of it type of thing, if that makes sense.
So, okay. So my husband's 53. He has a severe traumatic brain injury as well. There are things that you can do that the VA will help you do. They're going to tell you that they don't do it. Okay. But you're going to have to push for it. I'll call it be persistent. I won't say
Oh,
aggressive.
I am definitely the
persistent.
squeaky wheel. They already know me, and his primary care is like, if you need anything, just please message me. Secure message me and I'll get it done. And I'm like, oh, perfect. See, we don't go to Charleston for any of his imaging. We've only ever had to go to Charleston once. They do everything else for us here, thank God. I mean, community care is a bit of a struggle, but for us, we've had luck in it.
Oh, well,
So
I am super jealous.
I
Because I get sent to Charleston, but no.
I refuse to go. I tell them I'm not going there. I'm not taking him. It is way too much on us, on him. Like I said, he did have to have, I don't even remember what it was. It was something that they did in Charleston, but like even his primary care, like we went up the day before, we stayed in a hotel overnight. They put us up in a hotel. He had this thing. It was like a 4-hour thing we had to go for. But I mean, so for me, I flat out tell them there's no way I'm taking him to Charleston. It is way too much on him and me, and I'm not doing it. So maybe I don't know. I am very adamant. I am not doing this. We did not have to do this at our other VA. I am surely not doing it here. So, I mean, listen, the VA may kick us out at some point too.
Well, I would I use my children. I tell them like my kids are in school and I'm not coming. But I will say they will provide him with an iPad through PT or whatever that section's called. They'll provide him with an iPad. They'll
Oh, we
also
have that.
put GPS in your vehicle if he
We
is
have
still.
that. Yeah.
They will also purchase Alexa, those big screen Alexas, not the dot Alexas, to keep your calendars on for him to stay on schedule and on task. They'll also purchase the automatic pill providers so he doesn't have to worry about managing his medication or mixing it up. It comes in the little packets and shoots one out onto your countertop. So they'll do that as well. They'll also provide various forms of therapy, so they can do acupuncture. They'll do massage. Got to fight for that one, but they'll do it. Chiropractor, anything like that, if he's having headaches.
We have all that. Yeah.
And then they'll also, this one's a kicker. They used to, I don't know if they still do, but they used to provide scuba diving for veterans with brain injuries, because when you go below 30 feet, the pressure in the brain changes. And so scuba diving, they found that scuba diving relieved a lot of the pain for individuals with TBI. So they used to cover all of the guys getting open water certified.
That I did not know.
Yeah. So, and the same dude owns the dive shop in Savannah and Richmond Hill. But I know he was the program that they were using. So, that's also an option. But with TBI, a lot of it is just running around with, if you're like me, it's running around with sticky notes and constantly reminding. I tell everybody I live with Dory from Finding Nemo, and we just have fun with it, because that's all you can do. Because I mean, there's no point in getting upset about it. We're just gonna have fun with it. We're gonna roll with it, and we're gonna see some crazy stuff.
True.
So, well, Melissa, I think we went over your time frame.
Oh, no, that's this is excellent and excellent information. So thank you, Brittany, for sharing your story and all this great information and learning. And we'll share them once we get this uploaded. We'll share the link for everyone. And then Brittany, do you want to just give your Gmail, your email one quick more time?
Yeah, sure. If anybody needs anything, they can reach out to me at Brittany. It's BRITNEE Kinard, KINARD @gmail.com, or they can look us up at www.sdgunner.org.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Take care.
All right. Thank y'all.
Bye.
Thank you.